The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users, on demand on iTunes and on YouTube and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with me or not. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated across the United States into 12 million additional households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. Welcome to the show. Well, today I have chosen a topic that you all can speak about. I want everybody to contribute. Get those hands up, and I will call on you in the order in which we see you. What is the issue? That is the economy. You know, the holiday shopping season was pretty abysmal. You may recall that last week during the Paltalk Unplugged show, we went to the South Street Seaport in Manhattan, and one of the people that we interviewed said, hey, in my family, we're not giving gifts at all, not at all. And obviously from what we saw in the stores and from the reporting that we're seeing today about retail sales, thus far during the all-important fourth quarter of the year, the sales are way down. And it's a result of the economy. People are adjusting their buying habits. But the result is we're starting to head toward a downward spiral because, of course, as we have less discretionary income, as we are concerned about how far our dollar will go, as we're concerned about whether we're going to have a job or not, as some of us are unfortunate enough to have lost our jobs, are not spending as much, that's going to cause the retailers to contract their business as well. And what will that result in? Well, fewer people with discretionary income to go out and purchase goods and services, causing the economy to constrict even more so. So what I'm interested in is, how did you adjust your holiday season spending this year? And the second question is, what are your plans for 2009 with regard to how you're going to spend your dollars? Because that's your money. Dollar is king. Cash is king. And it's up to you to determine how you're going to spend it. You know, the price of gasoline, as we all know, has gone way down. And yet the consumption remains low as well, which many people predicted would never happen if the price went down. Thomas Friedman at the New York Times said, no, we're going in the wrong direction. We should force the price of gasoline even higher so that people don't drive. But surprisingly, people still aren't driving, even though the cost of gasoline is less. Why is that? Because they are unsure about the economy. We all are unsure about the economy. But does it then become a self-fulfilling prophecy if we do the prudent thing and we don't spend beyond our means? Now, I spoke to a woman this morning who said that yesterday they did exchange gifts at her house, but they gave fewer gifts and less expensive ones. Some people were giving away $15 gift cards as opposed to $100 or $200 items that they might have bought the year before because the economy has so constricted. So what did you do to protect yourself against the recession during the Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa holiday season? And are you going to continue in that direction in 2009? And if we all do this collectively, are we only hurting ourselves in the long run? After 9/11, the President of the United States, the Mayor of New York said, go out and shop. That was our response, supposedly, to the terrorists. Go out and shop. And a lot of us said, are you crazy? That's the response to the terrorists? But in a way, weren't they right that maybe we should go out and shop? Oh, one other anecdote before I get to your calls. Here in New York City, it's as you know, a very vertical kind of jungle that we live in New York. where people live on top of one another, on top of one another, on top of one another. It's not spread out. And people live in relatively small apartments. And consequently, it's a time-honored tradition in New York City. You don't cook. Nobody cooks in New York. Very few people. I shouldn't say nobody. But people tend to not cook in New York City. They order. They order food delivered. It's dangerous crossing the street. You know, you come to a one-way street or a one-way avenue. Traffic's coming from your left only. You look to your left. You think it's safe to cross the street. And some guy, a Chinese delivery guy on a bicycle, comes zooming by in the opposite direction, nearly runs you over. Because that's what people do. They call the Chinese restaurants, they call the Indian restaurants, and they say, you know, give me one from column 2 and 2 from column 3, and they deliver it to you, and you don't cook. Well, guess what's happening in New York City? People are starting to cook for the very first time. People who have never cooked or haven't in years, and it's because they don't want to spend that extra money. So they don't spend that money, and that's probably the prudent thing for them to do. But what happens? Maybe that Chinese restaurant closes for lack of business. Maybe that Indian restaurant closes for lack of business. More people out on the street. Less money on the tax rolls, income taxes, property taxes, reduced, sale taxes, reduced. So we go into a downward spiral. So what are you doing, and what ought we be doing in 2009? And then, if you want to speak a little more expansively about it, what should our leaders be doing about all of this? They've lowered interest rates beyond where they can be lowered. You can't lower them any further than they are now, right? It's like you're 1st and 10 on a goal line, you know, and then there's a penalty. The defense, there's a penalty, so they move you half the distance to the goal line. Big deal, right? There's no further that you can move it. And so what do? Let's start with Jim in Michigan, in the hard-hit southeastern Michigan. Jim, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
Okay, Gary and everyone, good evening. What have I done? We did cut down, my wife and I, but in the same token, everybody's an individual in our family, and I think my son went all out and embarrassed us by buying more than we bought him.